Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg. Today I'm going to talk about the Palladium version of the Lamy Studio Pen. I got an incredibly good deal on this pen on eBay, and it's basically the same pen as this is sort of the regular Lamy Studio Pen. As you can see, they're absolutely the same. One's blue, one is silver or palladium color. The blue is, I love the blue. It's when you take the cap off that you really see the difference. The shiny steel section on the Imperial Blue, and then here you have the palladium going all the way through. And I think that in this configuration, the more expensive palladium version is handsomer. See how it looks when it's posted. And here's one thing that's really beautifully designed. The way in which the pen is posted works in such a way so that there's a slight looseness here, and that's so that when it's posted, the idea is that it won't scratch the pen, so it doesn't actually touch. In practice, though, it is quite easy, from what I see online, to scratch this, even so. But if you're careful, and the way it's designed, it's that they don't actually touch. And some people think that wasn't done on purpose, that the way in which it jiggles, but actually that's a design feature. And here, let me focus this. You can see the gold nib and the two tones. The middle part is gold, and it's really nice looking. Versus the steel nib, which is the standard Safari nib. And you can take the gold nib, because they fit, and you could put it on this pen. So let's say you like this pen better. You could take one, or you could put the gold nib on a Safari pen if you like your Safari pen so much. Here's the Safari. They're actually all very similar size. One thing that I like, again, about the newer pen that I have, to me at least, is I like the subtlety of the logo. Here on the Imperial Blue, the white logo really sticks out, and I prefer the way it's kind of subtle on the Palladium version. In other words, it's very similar. I actually find, though, when you're writing with the pen, it really helps for the section to be brushed. I don't find the shiny, cold section pleasant to write with. And I love the way the pen looks so much that I sort of just try to ignore it. But I actually prefer to write with, of all these three pens, the pen that I think is the more comfortable actually is the cheaper. The Safari plastic pen is the most comfortable of the pens to actually write with. I think the 14K Nib is slightly superior to the nib on the Safari or the cheaper Lamy Imperial Blue, but I don't think it's tremendously better, and it is nowhere, at least in my mind, as good as the gold nib on the Lamy 2000. So that's my feelings now about the gold nib. Now, of course, other people may have different opinions. The gold nib is fine, and I tend to like mediums, so that may be one of the issues. It certainly works. It works nicely, so it's not an overall criticism of it. It's just, is it worth $100? And this is something, if you're getting into pens, new you're a new person in pens, you have this sort of idea maybe that, you know, gold is always superior, but not always. And a lot of my favorite pens have steel nibs, so that's something to keep in mind. The Lamy Studio pen was designed by the wonderful and well-known designer Hans Wettstein in 2005. And it comes, as I say, in both steel and or gold nib. You have to get the palladium version to get the gold nib. There may be some other special edition versions of it that come with the gold nib, but the gold nib is standard with the palladium version. The palladium version also comes with a converter. To be honest, I don't remember if the Lamy Studio Imperial came with a converter or not. I think it did, actually. And obviously they both use cartridges if you want to do that. And in terms of the design, probably the part of the design that's most distinctive is this sort of airplane propeller clip, which works nicely and makes it look a little different from the Lamy 2000. Here it is in comparison to the Lamy 2000. So they're very similar in size. I would say though that, you know, the thing about the palladium version is it really is incredibly beautiful looking pen. And in fact, I think it is a better looking pen than the Lamy 2000. But I would say that the Lamy 2000 is much more comfortable in the hand and is a much better writer than the Palladium, in my opinion. So if you have to choose between the two, definitely choose the Lamy 2000. The pen itself, though, the Palladium pen itself, I think is really nice. It's really beautiful. I think this is a better looking pen in this form than it is in the blue form. Not so much when it's capped, but when you take the blue cap off and you see this section and the contrast between the shininess of this and the matte finish of the blue, I prefer the way the Palladium version looks, where it's all the same. And I think this just is a gorgeous pen. So the combination of the gold nib and the beautiful pen is nice, and I was able to get this really 30% off what it usually is. I think you can get it normally, let's say on Amazon, for around $160. I was able to get it for around $120. It was unusual on eBay. So what I'm going to do is I will do a writing sample with this pen. I will also do a comparison writing sample with the older pen that I've had, not for that long a time. See how they both write, and then I will do a little spring drawing of some daffodils, a little watercolor. I'm using Waterman Intense Black in it. It has the gold nib, and it writes. It has a little bit of a bounce to it, and it's fairly smooth with a bit of feedback, and it has some flex to it, or a little bit of variation. I mean, it's not a flex pen, and I wouldn't push it too much, but you can see there is some line variation. It doesn't reverse write at all. At least I couldn't really get it to do that. And it's reasonably wet. I mean, it's a nice pen, and it's much more, for me, much more comfortable than the standard Lamy Studio pen, because it's not as slick in the section. Here I am screwing up the most famous thing that you're supposed to write with all the letters, because I have it, the brown fox. But anyway, it writes beautifully, nicely. Here I'm writing again with the Imperial Blue version. On Amazon, this was only around $45, and it's a very good price on Amazon. So you have to keep in mind there's a big difference in price, at least $100 difference between this and the Palladium. But the nib here doesn't have any flex at all, but it's a good writer. It's exactly the same kind of nib that you would have on a Safari pen, and I think those nibs are fine, good. I mean, so the nib is an improvement on the Palladium, but I didn't find that it is an enormous improvement, and not as good as the the Lamy 2000. Here is the Safari pen, actually, just trying it out, and I like the kind of feel of the nib on this pen. It's a little more deliberate, it takes a little more weight, and then the pen itself is much lighter, but I actually find that the Safari pen is more comfortable than the Studio pen, either of the two Studio pens. So that's it. Okay, here I'm just quickly sketching some freshly cut daffodils in pencil, and then using just a little bit of watercolor, bring out the new spring colors. This is sort of like a little assortment of daffodils. There's some yellow ones and white and yellow ones, slight orangey ones, and then I'm using the pen to outline it, make it pop a little bit, and it just is very nice, very smooth. It's nice writer, nice pen to draw with. So as always, don't forget to subscribe. It's the way to support the channel.